guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm checking out 11 American English words that baffle British people. It's Lost State. Here's the links in the description below as always. Please wait after this video to check it out. I'm going to get straight into it because my dinner is in the oven and I am starving. Let's go.
Channel for 10 years.
Such an intro.
And because of that, I thought now would be a great time to celebrate, by looking back at some of those early videos. I apparently made a video looking at British words that baffle Americans. If I were to make that video today, how different would it be from those days when I was young and naive? Today, we're going to do a little bit of a twist and bring to you a sequel that is 10 years in the making. What is the sequel called? 11 American words that baffle British people. So, 10 years in, if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now.
And here, please.
In the meantime, let me throw some words at you. We're going to start this list with what to me is a very special word. It is aluminum. This is a word I've talked about way too much on this channel, but it has its pride and place in lists like this because it's kind of the royalty of British versus American word differences. Why is that, Lawrence? Because it's a rare example of a word that's both spelled differently and pronounced differently.
Aluminum. Aluminium.
Yeah, it's all fun and parties in my house, and the 10% of subscribers who watch my long forms as well as my YouTube shorts will know that the supposedly American English word aluminum originated in Britain. And the reason that I just mentioned this again is that I used to be one of those British people who just thought that Americans have to be different, even with elements of the periodic table. I'm not just talking about aluminum, consider the spelling of sulfur. And so I looked up some other words.
I can't lie, I didn't know they did say it differently when I was a kid.
Which was gotten, the past participle of get. At least that's what it is here. Where I come from, the past participle of get is got. For example, I've got older as I've...
I've got older, but I've gotten older actually does make sense too, so I feel like I might have said I've gotten, maybe. I don't know. They both sound the same.
More likely to say, I've gotten older, and that's where the knee-jerk reaction comes in. Why are you making a word longer than it needs to be? Yeah. Well, then I started to think about it a bit. Unsurprisingly, it turns out that gotten, in this sense, originated in the very country that brought English to North America in the first place. In other words, in England, we also used to widespreadly, that is an adverb that I may have just made up, use the word gotten. Americans continue to do it, we stopped doing it, and over time, forgot that we ever did it. Or should I say, we have forgotten that we ever did it. Now, admittedly, there are some American English words that baffled me at first that don't have a British origin. Take, for example, all-purpose flour. What's all-purpose flour, Lawrence? Well, the quick answer is it is what the British call plain flour. But all-purpose flour is also a reminder that American English loves the word all. It shows up in all-timer, all-access backstage pass, all-wheel drive, all-in, all-pro, all-star, all-purpose cleaner. Not my fault, it's a bloody cardinal. All-American, and of course, all-purpose flour. And I think that specifically when it comes to words that we use to describe food products, that can be genuinely baffling. In my kitchen first was an overwhelming experience, partly because I can't cook. Secondly, because you have to translate a lot of things. And I've included all-purpose flour on this list as opposed to many of the other food names because I'm currently out of it and this will serve as a reminder to go to Aldi. Of course, while sun is up there and I'm sweating my arse off. And that's because I have never fully become acclimatized to the humidity of the Midwest or to the fact that Americans say acclimated. Like, I thought America loved taking British words that have an ISE suffix and switching out for a Z. I thought that was your thing. Then I got here and realized it's more complex than that. Sometimes you'll just change the entire suffix. Except, again, the word acclimate is older than the word acclimatized. And the word acclimatized is used here, but in a different sense to do with the actual climate. So that one's baffling no more. Anyway, let's just rewind the tape to a few seconds ago when I said this. And switching out for a Z. I thought that was your thing. Now, I can get away with saying Z because I've lived here for 17 years and I'm a citizen now. But in my former life, the last letter of the alphabet would have been Z. And I wanted to point this difference out in this video because while it might be baffling to British people, I've noticed certain contexts in which British people do say Z. There aren't many people out there calling Beyonce's husband Jay-Z, although Beyonce might could be their thing. I don't know.
Is that because he's American, so we know it is Jay-Z, that's how he pronounced his name?
Discourse seems to dominate the conversation around generations, as in the boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Gen Z. Some British people are instinctively pronouncing it the American way.
Our Gen Z, that's people under 27, kind of a bit workshop.
So are we baffled by it, or do we just like to point out differences for clicks?
Yeah,
I just realised that's what I'm doing. Anyway, because my mind was in that...
I feel like people do just try and pick on things.
area of the
Not Lawrence,
alphabet,
but-
it got me thinking about words that begin with the letter Z, Z. Suddenly, zipper entered my brain, and to my British viewers who are currently baffled by this word, a zipper is one of these things that helps to keep your clothes
That's what we
closed.
call a
By
zipper.
saying that after 4 whiskies.
Or a
To
zip.
my American viewers wondering, what on earth do you call this in Britain? It's just a zip. And the reason
yeah.
that I bring this up is that I think the word zipper, it sounds like something a child would say. As kids, you go on a roller coaster called a Big Dipper. You go swimming in flippers. And this all happens while you're a little nipper. So those are my 2 cents on that word. Now, there's one word in American English that I am baffled by every single time I see it, and that word is realty. You can be driving along these streets here, or
Realty.
any street in America, and you see this word on yard signs
that
everywhere.
like-
and it basically
is that
just
like-
means real estate. That's
Yeah, that's what I
fine,
was thinking.
except the thing that happens to me every time I see it, without fail, is I read it as the word reality. And in American English, that word comes with many footnotes. I think that real estate signs do this on purpose, because a lot of Americans tell me that when they visit Britain, they see similar signs that
yeah.
say to let, as in to rent or lease out a property. They see it, as do British people, as
Toilet.
Toilet. And that
That's
should
a great.
remind everybody
I've never seen
of the
that. I've never
power
noticed
of
that. It's a great
I.
observation.
If you're
That is a
wondering
great
how I
observation.
scored
I've never seen it as that before, but now I'm always going to see it as that every time I see it now.
About earlier when I said that Americans like to make some words longer than they need to be. Oftentimes this will present in words that could just be often. And I used to think that, oh, Americans that use oftentimes are just trying to sound important, clever, different to the rest of us. But if we look at history, and I think you know where I'm going with this, oftentimes was around in English before Europeans were around in America. In other words,
Okay.
oftentimes, much like gotten, was part of the English language in what is today Britain. Except at some
Yeah.
point in history we caught up with the times and removed the suffix times. Said it twice. In America it has stuck around, but I will acknowledge that there's a debate even here whether you should say the shortened version or the unnecessary word. Jaywalking is an interesting word because it's
Yeah.
not a respelling of a British word. It's not an alternate to a British word. It's a word for which there is no equivalent in British English.
Just
And that's
walking.
because the UK doesn't have laws prohibiting road crossing at non-designated spots, except on motorways unless you're an idiot. America
Yeah,
was at the forefront
that's
of the
fine.
automobile industry, lobbied hard to have legislation passed against people that would jaywalk, in other words, that would cross the road at parts that aren't designated for crossing. And it just became a part of the legal language of the United States in a way that British people don't have to worry about.
Okay.
But speaking of getting in trouble, America has a word for con artist or swindler that I'd never heard before, and that word is grifter. This word has been
I've
used
never
about
heard of
all
that before.
sorts of Americans, from business moguls to former reality TV hosts to presidents. And when I first heard it, I got the complete wrong end of the stick, and I think it's because it sounds like the word grafter. So when I hear sentences like he or she is a grifter, at first I thought, oh, so they work extra hard. And language gets you like that, whether it's a word on the sign that's subtly missing the letter I, or an established word that suddenly has an I.
Yeah.
And finally, sherbet. As somebody who was
Sherbet.
born and raised
Love
in Britain,
sherbet.
I always knew sherbet to be a powder and not the kind that Uncle Toby used to push on me at New Year's Eve. Instead, it's a fizzy powder that's primarily used
Yeah.
for dipping licorice and lollipops.
Lollipops,
When I described
dib
this to
dabs.
my American
Oh,
wife,
love
she said it
dippers.
sounded like the American brand, Fun Dip. And after moving to
Fun
the
Dip, I
United
love Fun
States, I
Dips.
found out that sherbet here is a completely different thing. How best to describe it? It's basically sorbet, but with dairy. So what's going
Oh.
on? It turns out that both sherbet and sorbet have their origins in the Arabic word sariba, meaning
Makes
to
sense,
drink.
sounds the same.
And Americans have oftentimes gotten into the habit of sounding out an extra R in the final syllable. In fact, I recently found out that an alternative spelling exists in American English to reflect this. The word carries a pretty rare distinction. It is one of the few in the English language whose spelling,
Okay.
meaning, and pronunciation differ on either side of the pond. And since that piece of trivia is what I always finish with at my wild parties, that concludes this list. If you haven't done so already,
Let me know in the comments below. Do you want me to check out that video, 11 words I now pronounce the American way? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Another fun video by Lawrence. His link's in the description. Make sure you go and give him some love. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.